Okay, let's see. We should be recording. Good. Hey, we're recording this in right after Christmas here. Um, so hope you guys had a good winter break and welcome back to some biology. Move my face so you can see the screen a little better. Um, yeah, entering one of our final units and maybe the most important unit of our biology chapter, and that is going to be um, this idea of genetics changing over time. All right, and we'll dive more into that. But I really think it piles off well with what we've been doing. All right, we just got done with DNA as the code of life. We got done with genetics on how that DNA is inherited. And now we're going to talk about how that DNA has changed over time. The first example we're going to look at is humans were a little bit unique in that we have harnessed this power for ourselves. All right. We have taken control of this genetic manipulation um, throughout history, and we've done so in the form of agriculture. All right. We look at this. This is a um, probably what the closest thing to teosinte would be. This is the predecessor of corn. All right. Humans have taken that particular plant and through selectively breeding, they have generated corn. Now I'm from the state of Iowa, and we do corn. That is Iowa only does a few things well, and corn is one of them. Um, but no, through years and years, not even years, through generations of farmers selecting the most abundant seeds and kernels and traits, we have transformed that teosinte plant into what modern corn is. Okay. And like I said, this is before any genetic engineering, any of that stuff. Farmers have a pretty advanced understanding of genetics and how they can change over time. Um, with like I said, with plants in particular, here's a look at apples. All right, we look at apples. That is what a natural apple would look like. All right, so that is a non-manipulated apple. You can see it's small, it's maybe a little bit misshapen. It would be very almost like tart in flavor. Versus there's the Honeycrisp apple developed in La Crescent, Minnesota, and just look at how we have. Oops, too far. We have changed that those genetics once again by picking the gene. Now apples are a little unique because you can splice things together, but by picking the good genes and making sure those survived while others died, that was how we did that. Same thing with horses. There aren't, ancestors to the modern horse are few and far between, but there is a look at a wild horse, and you can tell that's very different from our domesticated animals. Once again, farmers, well, this would even be, think about like ancient cavalries, those kind of things. Horses were the mode for transportation. So they bred strong, durable, personable horses for generations until we get genes changing over from something that looks like this to something that looks like that. More pronounced with some of the animals that we use for meat. Here's a look at what a wild chicken would look like. Once again, not a perfect comparison, but a look at that. And then this is what the chicken that you eat. That if you get chicken from, the frozen section of the grocery store, this is where it comes from. All right, a far cry between that regal looking thing and this. These have been bred to have extra large breasts so they can barely stand up. They've been bred to grow extremely quickly and mass produced. Same thing when we look at pigs. Farmers have selected the genes that they like and that make pigs more profitable and transformed them into something closer to this. Cows, once again, same story. There's a look at the European aurochs. Now it's extinct now, but that would be close to a ancestor of the modern cow. Once again, through changes over time, we've been able to do that. And then the last two, We look at cats. Now, cats are a little bit different than dogs. Cats, for a lot of years, were bred to be, you know, keep rodents out of farms and houses. And so they're still excellent hunters. Only very recently in history have we started to select traits of cats that look like this that wouldn't do very well in the wild. And then my favorite, the ancestor to all modern dogs here, the gray wolf, excellent hunter, top predator, lives in packs, survives the harsh winters. These things don't need to have, little booties on their feet because it's too cold out there. They live in Canada and then northern United States, and humans through time selecting the traits that they want have turned this species and have turned it into modern pugs and all the other species of dogs. All right, by selecting what's cute, what's cuddly, what's friendly. And we know this. We know that if you have a dog that habitually is aggressive or bites people, what do we do with that animal? We put them down. We remove their genes from the gene pool so that only those genes that we like survive. All right. So once again, just the transformation of going from top keystone predator species to a pug. I always think that's a hilarious switch there. So what we just talked about, and this is worth jotting down, is artificial selection. Okay, so artificial selection has been going on for roughly 10,000 years. It's probably closer, it's probably older than that, but that's a young estimate there. About 10,000 years ago is when we started kind of the transition from hunter-gatherer to, that's not exactly right. Roughly 10,000 years ago, we started domesticating dogs. That's the best example I have there. All right, so over 10,000 years, humans have taken wild species and through no genetic engineering, no gene splicing, just taking things that they like and forcing those two things to breed, have artificially selected certain traits. This unit, we are going to be talking about the same thing. The only difference is we're going to be talking about natural selection. Okay, so natural selection is when nature does the choosing instead of humans. All right, so it's nearly identical, only nature chooses what traits gets passed down. So essentially, if you are good enough to survive to a reproductive age in nature, whatever nature you live in, then there's a chance that you'll reproduce and your traits are passed on. If you are not strong enough to survive or adapted enough to survive, then your genes are removed from the gene pool. So as nature changes or as competition changes, species change over time. All right. So that is our idea with natural selection here. Let's see. We're going to go a little bit further today. That'd be good. So what do we mean by changes? So we can observe traits in species and how those traits have enabled those species to survive their environment. Because remember, with natural selection, it's all about surviving. That's it. That's the only predecessor. Are you able to survive to reproductive age? If yes, then yep, your genes are good enough to make it. Artificial selection, all the examples we talked about previously, are about how useful you are to human beings. Okay, so if you're the apple tree that doesn't produce great apples, or if you're the runt of the litter and the pigs, hey, you're not. Humans will remove your genes from the gene pool. Like I said, farmers still practice this. I don't know how familiar you guys are, but oftentimes, whether it's a sow for pigs or a boar for pigs, excuse me, or a bull for cows, farmers will actually, in those big beef herds, they'll just have one bull. So they'll have one male that is reproducing with all the females. And if you ever see that bull, it is by far the largest animal in the herd. That farmer has probably spent over, sometimes over $100,000 on that one individual because their genetics are so good. They want their entire herd to have those genetics there. So once again, still things that are going on. And that is an excellent place for us to stop today. Okay, so a little intro to natural selection. No assignment today, just a video, and make sure you do your attendance check.